A small boat rows out to 3 anchored ships. The man in it carries a book and an inkpot. One by one, every sailor on every deck signs his name. The paper says the land in front of them is not an island. Anyone who says otherwise gets his tongue cut out. What they don't know, it is an island. The man making them sign is wrong. He will never find out. And the land in front of him will end up named after somebody else. 500 years later, every schoolchild still learns his name. And it hangs on one question. How does the man who discovered America manage to never find it? He was wrong, and he would not stop being wrong. The answer runs through a 6-day walk to China, a pear-shaped earth with the Garden of Eden on top, a letter from Panama about the river Ganges, a prisoner who won't take his chains off, and a body 2 countries still fight over. This is the story of how Columbus never found America. Start with what he was actually after. Not a new world. Nobody was looking for a new world. He wanted a shortcut. Asia's gold and silk without the long road east. And to sell that trip, he needed the ocean to be small. So he made it small. At every fork in the numbers, he picked the most flattering one. A smaller planet, a wider Asia. Japan shoved east until it sat almost exactly where the Caribbean actually is. He had quietly shrunk the world by a quarter. Then he took it to the experts. They took 4 years to say no, and nobody in that room thought the Earth was flat. Educated Europe had known it was a ball for 1800 years. There was a textbook. Every man arguing with him had read it. That famous scene, the lone genius against the churchman who think he'll sail off the edge. A novelist made it up 3 centuries later. What they actually said was arithmetic. The ocean is far wider than you claim, and your men will starve before they see land. And they were right. He thought Japan sat 2,000 miles past the Canary Islands. Try 10,000. He wasn't wrong by a little. He was wrong by a factor of 4. By rights, he should have died out there. He didn't. 2 continents were in the way. On the 12th of October, 1492, a lookout sees a pale line in the dark, and they land on a small island. And we don't know which island. His logbook is lost. What survives is somebody else's partial copy, and out of it, people have argued for at least 10 different islands. There is one in the Bahamas called San Salvador, and it gets the dot on the school map. It was given that name in 1925 because of the theory. The name isn't evidence. It's a guess wearing a label. He was certain he was off the coast of Asia, so he did the obvious thing. He sent for the Emperor of China. 2 men walking inland from a beach in Cuba, carrying a sealed letter from the King and Queen of Spain to the most powerful ruler on earth. One of them was hired purely for his languages. He was the man who would talk to Asia, and Columbus gave them 6 days. 6 days, there and back, to reach the imperial court of China. They found a village of about 50 houses. No emperor, no cities. Nobody who had ever heard of China. They did bring one thing back. On the road, they kept passing people holding a half-burnt weed, breathing the smoke in and out. That is the first time a European wrote down what smoking is. He sent an embassy to the Emperor of China, and it came back with cigarettes. So he tried a different approach. June 1494. He anchors off the coast of Cuba and sends a notary around the fleet with a document. Every officer, every sailor, every ship's boy. Sign here. This land is the mainland. From this beach, a man could walk to Spain. His evidence was a number. He had followed this coastline for 335 leagues, and nothing that long could be an island. Change your story later, and it costs you 10,000 coins and your tongue. Not one man refused. It isn't a discovery, and it isn't quite a lie. It's a man who has found something genuinely new and decided the simplest fix is to make reality sign a document. Cuba was proved to be an island 14 years later. He had been dead for 2. By then, they had given him a colony. It went badly. In the summer of 1500, a royal commissioner arrived in Santo Domingo, and he had not come to visit. He took sworn statements from more than 20 colonists about how the Columbus brothers ran the place. What that file describes is government by punishment. Sentences with no trial, floggings, mutilations, hangings, aimed at the island's own people and at Spanish settlers too. Nobody in it speaks for the defense. Then it sat in an archive, unread, for 4.5 centuries. The commissioner arrested all 3 brothers and shipped them home in irons. Out on the Atlantic, the captain offered to strike the chains off. Columbus said no. The sovereigns put these on. The sovereigns can take them off. He wore them the whole way. And then he kept them, hanging in his room for the rest of his life. He asked to be buried in them. Spain let him keep the title, took the power away for good, and handed him one last ship. His instructions were specific. Under no circumstances call at Hispaniola. It wasn't his anymore. He sailed straight for it. A hurricane was coming, and he wanted shelter. He anchored outside the harbor of the city he used to govern and asked to be let in. They said no. He rode the storm out at sea, so he turned west again, still looking. Looking for a gap, a strait, a channel, any way through to the sea on the far side. Because on his map, the sea on the far side was Asia. He worked down the coast of Central America and got close enough that people simply told him the answer. There is another ocean, they said, a few days' walk south. They were right. It was about 40 miles away. He took it as proof he was nearly at Asia. So he wrote home. He was sitting on the coast of Panama, and he wrote that from here it was a 10-day journey to the river Ganges. Panama, the Ganges. 3 years before he died, on the wrong side of the wrong ocean, and the map inside his head had not moved an inch. Then the ships began coming apart under him. Worms had eaten through the hulls. He ran the last 2 aground on Jamaica, and 116 men sat on that beach for a year. No ship, no rescue, and the people feeding them getting understandably tired of it. When the food began to dry up, he told them his God was angry and would take the moon out of the sky. He had a book of astronomical tables in his cabin. On the 29th of February, 1504, the moon went dark. The food came back. It's the only moment in the whole story where his books are right, and it isn't about the ocean. It's about the sky. He got home sick, with 18 months to live, and he never once changed his mind. Because he had already seen it. Rewind to 1498, off the coast of what is now Venezuela. His ships hit fresh water, not a stream, a flood of it, shoving out into the open sea, so much that he worked it through and got the right answer. No island makes a river like that. Only a continent does. He wrote it down. He told the king and queen that here was another world. He had it. And then he put it back inside Asia. His solution was that the Earth is not actually round. It's shaped like a pear. At the eastern edge of the Orient, the pear has a stalk end, a bulge, rising nearer to heaven than anywhere else. And on top of that bulge, he decided, sits the Garden of Eden. That is not a man failing to understand what he found. That is a man understanding it and redesigning the planet rather than be wrong. He died on the 20th of May, 1506, still calling it the Indies. 1 year later, a printing press in a small town in Lorraine. A mapmaker there had been reading a pamphlet by an Italian navigator called Amerigo Vespucci. Its whole selling point was the sentence Columbus would never say out loud. This is not Asia. This is a part of the world we did not know was there. So the mapmaker printed a new map, and across the new land he wrote a name, America, after Amerigo. He had never met the man. They never exchanged a letter. and half his reasoning was grammar. Europe and Asia are named after women, so he took Americas and gave it a feminine ending. Vespucci never asked for it. Then the strangest part. The mapmaker changed his mind. 6 years later, he printed that coast again, with the name stripped off, and a line across it, crediting the discovery to Columbus. 3 years after that, he dropped the name completely. Twice he tried to hand it back. It made no difference. The book carrying the name had already sold out 3 printings, and a generation later, another mapmaker stretched it over both continents permanently. He was wrong. He would not stop being wrong. And the world got named after the one man willing to say it out loud. Columbus missed hearing that name by a single year. And he wasn't even first. Around the year 1021, and we know that year exactly because a storm on the sun left its mark in the tree rings, Norse sailors were cutting timber in Newfoundland. 471 years before he set out, and people had been living across those 2 continents for thousands of years before that. There was never anything to discover. There were only directions to ask for. He never set foot on what is now the United States. He never accepted what he had found. He never heard the word America. And he still hasn't stopped moving. Buried in Valladolid, dug up for Seville, shipped to Santo Domingo, moved to Havana, sailed back to Seville, and 2 countries still both insist they have him. The man who was never where he thought he was still isn't. One more thing. I'm Stick. I travel through time to bring you back the best stories. See you in the next one. Next time, the story of the Queen.